So next we are going to be covering pressing aids and the tools that you're going to be using to press your garment. Pressing is another vital part of sewing and creating higher fashion garments. You'd be surprised some of the things that come out of a very well pressed garment. You may be even able to excuse certain imperfections if the garment is pressed accordingly. So those are some of the important things about making sure you have the appropriate tools in pressing a garment. So first we're going to cover the standard iron. It's good quality. I use it for a variety of different projects, and I love it because it has different settings on it. And the settings are very important because you want to follow those settings. You don't want to get just a standard sort of cheap iron that just has kind of one setting and then you burn chiffon or something else like that. So you want to definitely get an iron that has steam to it. You want to get a good ceramic plate, and you also want to make sure that it has true settings, meaning if it says it's only for linen, if it says it's only going to take care of synthetic fabrics, make sure that it does what it says it's going to do, because you don't want to run into an issue when you run it across the garment and the garment just like burns. So I definitely, if you're going to get a standard iron, make sure that it has settings and steam. Okay, some other pressing tools are items such as the tailor's ham, and this is what we use for a variety of things. I use it to press out and flatten out seams. They're great for the shoulder area on the garment, so they have a variety of uses. So I definitely would say invest in one of these because it makes your pressing a lot easier. So that's the tailor's ham. Next we have the seam, and this has tons of thread on it. This is the seam roll, and this is even better as far as like pressing down seams. So you take it and you place the seam directly on it, and then you just run the iron over it, whereas you might have to put it on a flat ironing board and you won't get the same precision. And you want to make sure, especially when you're sewing, that your seams are all open and evenly pressed, because as you go on, especially when you're putting a garment together that has several layers, you don't want that awkward bunching that comes when your seams are not properly pressed. So you want to make sure you invest in a tailor's ham and a seam roll. So those are two of the main things I have. As far as my ironing board goes, I have just this mini ironing board, and I purchased this a little while back. For me, although I have my own space for my tailoring and my sewing, I want to make sure I save as much space as possible. And I found that over the years, like I had the huge sewing standard iron, and I found that, you know, I can get as much done as I could if I just use this to sort of press seams. So you're probably wondering, if that's what you use to sort of press seams, what are you using for like the larger dresses that you're trying to press out? And I actually have like a standard large steamer, and it has the attachment that we use for steaming. You can hang some of the clothes here. I don't use this part. I have various hooks that I use because I have, like I said, I work with a lot of huge, large dresses, and this just wouldn't cut it. So I have various hooks around my work studio where I can hang the dress at a higher level and steam the garment. And again, it's simple to use. You put in the amount of water. There's a cartridge down here, and you just steam the garment. So when I'm steaming or I'm trying to press and prepare things to get sent out to a client or sent out the door, I use this very large steamer. And I sort of use the small ironing board for the smaller finishes and things like that. But because I mainly work in like dresses, this steamer has been my primary use of pressing. Okay. So again, we have just a couple of more things to help with your pressing. I also use this, what we call a pressing cloth. And for me, it's just broadcloth cut into a square, and this is great when you're pressing and you don't want to burn anything. Even though you want to trust the kind of iron you have, it's always good because sometimes like I'll be sewing an interface, and that gets, sometimes if it's adhesive to it. It gets sticky. Maybe you ironed a garment and it had more of a black fabric, and now you're trying to iron a white garment, and you don't want those fibers to transfer over on each other. You want to use this as sort of like a buffer in between, but I would say wipe down your iron as regularly as possible so you don't have a lot of those transfers over onto the garment. And this I just use for general purpose. And then you have another kind of pressing cloth, and this is just me. I just cut out a piece of organza, and this is perfect for, again, when you're doing lace and very fragile formal garments, beading, and you want to press. So you want to place this over and then like run it over on top of it. So these are two of the main pressing cloths I bought. They have them in the store where you can get, you know, the actual pressing cloth, but you can also just go and get broadcloth and organza, get about a yard of it, and you can serger. I didn't serger it around, but you can finish off the sides. Pinking shears, you can pink the sides to make sure that you don't get a lot of fray. I haven't had too many issues with fraying, so that's totally up to you. Within this, within the book itself, it does give you a couple more options, such as the clapper, the pressing mitt, and you have the mini iron, and the pressing mat that you can sort of use as just like a iron replacement, iron board replacement. So if you didn't want to have the standard iron board, if you just wanted to quickly run a seam over without having to set up the whole ironing board, I definitely encourage you to get the pressing mat. That's not something that I've had to use. I'm fairly close to my sewing machine and my pressing area, so I haven't had the need yet to quite use it, but it's definitely a useful extra. And the mini iron is just so that you can get more precise and more precision when you are trying to iron out those seams. And again, it's a useful extra. If you have the seam roll and the tailor's ham, you can still achieve that same kind of precision. The mini iron is just a useful extra, something to help you along the way. So that covers our pressing aids. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Videos are uploaded weekly covering dressmaking, fashion, lectures, and more.